If you look at Quentin Tarantino's work as a treasure trove of references to 60s and 70s cinema, it's hard to find a better confirmation of that idea than Kill Bill, a film literally stitched together from dozens of movies from the director's youth. It's a love letter to the films he grew up on, blending Japanese samurai movies, Hong Kong kung fu action, Italian spaghetti westerns, and American crime thrillers. And in this video, I'm going to walk through all the references in Kill Bill and also dive into the deeper meaning of this film. Is this revenge story really as simple as it seems at first glance? Or is there something hiding underneath it? Hi, this is ElevenSlate, and this is Kill Bill Explained. The idea to shoot this altar to the dawn of New Hollywood came to Quentin Tarantino and Uma Thurman back during the production of Pulp Fiction. Remember the TV pilot Mia Wallace talks about?
It was a show about a team of female secret agents called Fox Force 5.
Yeah, something very similar to the Deadly Viper Assassination Squad, a team of hired killers that the bride will later be hunting down.
There was a blonde one, Somerset O'Neill. She was a leader. The Japanese fox was a kung fu master. The black girl was a demolition expert.
This organization combines two 70s action movies, The Doll Squad, you could even call it the forerunner of the famous Charlie's Angels, and Hong Kong's Five Deadly Venoms, about a clan whose fighters take on the code names of various poisonous creatures. Though there were not only snakes there, but also scorpions and toads. In 1994, Tarantino and Thurman sketched out the idea of a revenge story about a bride who loses her beloved and then wades through sword fights and fake blood. That's why the credits of Kill Bill say the character was created by Q and U, Quentin and Uma.
Don't be a... That'd be about square.
Although, as with many elements in this film, a lot of it had already been invented long before them. For example, in 1968, Francois Truffaut released The Bride Wore Black, with very similar motifs. It also has a groom killed right before the wedding, and 5 people responsible, who will be picked off one by the enraged bride. There's even a list where she stylishly crosses out their names. And another movie helped make that list look so cool, The Mercenary, with Franco Nero in the lead role. The bride's kill schedule design references that film. Only in the early 2000s does the bride finally set out for revenge, and Tarantino starts preparing for a film that's maximally atypical for him. At that moment, anyway. Up to then, he'd worked strictly in the realm of crime thrillers, loading seemingly simple gangster stories with bone-crushing dialogue and stylish direction. Kill Bill would symbolize his transition into a new period of his career, one completely built on teenage emotions. I'm not saying there were no references to older cinema in Reservoir Dogs, Pulp Fiction, and Jackie Brown. There absolutely were, just not on the level of Kill Bill. In fact, the one who was supposed to hunt down her enemies and cross off their names from the list at first was Shoshana Dreyfus.
Au revoir, Shoshana!
Yes, Tarantino started writing Inglourious Bastards back in the 90s and was planning a revenge story inspired by World War II action films. A surviving Jewish girl was supposed to track down Nazis and deal with them as brutally as possible. Later, that plot would transform and end up on screen in a different form, leaving the stylish carnage to the bride. Tarantino got so carried away that he planned to shoot a 4-hour film with an intermission, again to recreate the atmosphere of old double features, when in one sitting you could watch, say, a cool kung fu flick and an equally cool western. But the producers quite reasonably worried about this idea. Who besides hardcore cinephiles would go to a 4-hour movie? Even Tarantino himself later admitted in interviews that to sit that long in a theater and actually enjoy it, the audience has to love cinema as much as he does. In the end, the Weinstein brothers, the producers of Kill Bill, met Tarantino's obsession halfway and offered a very generous solution. Don't chop the film down to a single feature, but keep all the scenes and simply split it into 2 parts. Or 2 volumes, as the director likes to say. Only one scene didn't make it into the film, the one showing a truly menacing Bill in action, killing a gang led by Michael J. White's character.
Can I help you? You bastard. The only thing you can do for me is die.
So the runtime is, in a sense, another homage to old cinema. The revenge storyline itself is also a big tribute to 70s movies. Back then, revenge thrillers became incredibly popular. The formula is simple. The protagonist suffers a terrible loss, family, a friend, a loved one, underlined as appropriate, and then sets out to find those responsible, which leads to the final showdown. It might be a veteran returning from war, like in Rolling Thunder, mild-mannered architect Charles Bronson in Death Wish, or gangster Michael Caine in Get Carter. The popularity of these plots is very easy to explain. Through the suffering of the main character, it's very simple to achieve the audience's emotional involvement. Make the people in the theater root for the hero, and when the revenge is finally complete, they leave satisfied and tell their friends about the movie. But what hits even harder emotionally is when you change the protagonist's gender. Tons of films focused on women who had survived violence and took justice into their own hands. The heroine of I Spit on Your Grave, the mute girl from Ms. 45, or the biker girl avenging her brother in Bury Me an Angel. By the way, take a look at that movie's poster. And now let's listen to the bride's line from the beginning of Volume 2.
When I woke up, I went on what the movie advertisements refer to as a roaring rampage of revenge.
It's no coincidence Tarantino decided to include this insanely cool line in a film. But if we're picking the main revenge story that influenced Kill Bill, we should look at the Japanese Lady Snowblood. Some thugs kill the heroine's fiancé and look down at her from above in utter arrogance. The deadly vipers framing her in the same high angle echo that shot. The difference is, the girl in the Japanese film doesn't get to take revenge for long. After her first murder, she's thrown in prison, where she gives birth to the main character, literally conceived for vengeance. Her look heavily influenced the design of Oren Ishii, played by Lucy Liu. And during the death of number 1 on the bride's list, the music from the finale of Lady Snowblood plays. Notice how much the snowy showdown set stands out. Even with the naked eye, you can tell it's a soundstage, but that's exactly how it's supposed to be. Why? We'll get back to that later. Also, the 1973 Japanese film was divided into chapters, just like Kill Bill. To be precise, that approach influenced pretty much all of Tarantino's movies. At first, Tarantino was looking for a Japanese actress for the role of Oren, but then he saw Shanghai Noon with Jackie Chan and Owen Wilson, where Lucy Liu plays a kidnapped princess. He realized he'd found the perfect actress and rewrote the character's backstory, giving her Chinese and American roots. We can't forget another crucial element of Japanese samurai movies without which Kill Bill is impossible to imagine: fountains of blood. These characters don't have ordinary arteries, only hoses filled to the brim that spray in red torrents at any wound. And if we're looking for the godfather of this trend, we should highlight the legendary Akira Kurosawa, specifically his film Yojimbo 2, Senjuro. Yes, the famous Toshiro Mifune samurai movie, later remade as A Fistful of Dollars with Clint Eastwood, actually had a sequel. The plot isn't particularly important for my story, but the final duel is. Some say that this very moment infected Japanese cinema with a mania for blood geysers. And remember that in a theatrical release, The Bride's Massacre at the House of Blue Leaves takes place in black and white? That's both an homage to old movies and a necessity. Kill Bill was on the verge of getting an NC-17 rating for all the blood, a complete ban on teen seeing it, even with parents. That's a huge obstacle for a film's box office. So Tarantino decided to use the ancient techniques. Samurai exploitation films of the 70s and 80s pulled the same trick to fool American ratings boards. They'd run the most graphic scenes in black and white. Looks less like blood that way, doesn't it? Among the other samurai inspirations, we can single out Shogun Assassin from 1980. Not for nothing does the bride's daughter choose to watch that film at the end. That was the title of a re-edited version of the first 2 parts of the massive Japanese series Lone Wolf and Cub, prepared specially for the American market and dubbed for Western audiences. There's plenty of blood and one against many battles. The bride fighting against a blue backdrop is a nod to the fresher but equally stylish samurai fiction from the 90s. Although Japanese cinema didn't just supply stories about ancient warriors with katanas. Let's look at the airplane flying through red clouds. And now at the 60s horror movie Goki, Body Snatcher from Hell. Tarantino wanted to recreate that toy-like effect of a model plane floating over a completely unrealistic landscape, as if it came straight out of some kaiju battle movie. In the showdown between the bride and Elle Driver, played by Daryl Hannah, the director wanted their fight to feel like a clash of 2 giant monsters, so he placed the camera lower to artificially exaggerate their scale. And what's Japanese culture without anime? A whole segment telling the tragic backstory of Oren Ishii is done in animation by Production IG. They worked on Evangelion movies, Psycho-Pass, and of course Ghost in the Shell, true masters of their craft. Even in this style, there are nods to American cinema. Oren shoots her enemies from under the bed, just like Albert Finney in Miller's Crossing. If we believe David Carradine, who plays the main target, then this guy who kills Lucy Liu's character's father is actually young Bill. That's how he breeds the fighters for his organization. Special attention goes to Go-Go, Oren's henchwoman played by Chiaka Kuriyama.
Hi!
A textbook cool, almost anime character, a schoolgirl with a ball and chain weapon, or, as the experts call it, a Kusarigama or Morningstar. The actress blew Tarantino away with her work in the cult battle royale and the horror film Ju-On, The Curse. She brought in traits from her earlier characters and added elements from the famous manga Sukiban Deka. There are many translation options for the title. I'll stick with Girl Detective with a Yo-Yo. It just sounds too good. The heroine of those stories also wore a school uniform and wielded a weapon on a string. There it was a yo-yo, but the overall vibe is clearly similar. And if we're talking about casting-based references, we absolutely have to mention Hattori Hanzo, played by real-life Japanese action legend Sonny Chiba. Hanzo himself is a historical figure, a famous samurai and ninja who actually lived in the 16th century. In Tarantino's universe, he's still alive and helps the bride get her ultimate weapon. Let's leave Japan behind and head to Hong Kong, to the director's next favorite type of cinema, old-school kung fu action movies. The very ones with boom and punch sound effects, wise masters, and completely unrealistic fights. Kill Bill starts with one of the main references to them, the logos of Japanese and Chinese studios that young Tarantino often saw in movie theaters. For example, the Shaw Brothers Studio, which shot a ton of kung fu action films. In reality, their surname is Shao. It's just that in a more Western spelling, it's easier to sell their product in the West. These logos, plus the traditional grindhouse title card saying, "Our feature presentation," immediately tell the audience what to expect. Movies like back then, with all their strengths and weaknesses. If we pick the most noticeable reference to Hong Kong action flicks in Kill Bill, I'd choose Five Fingers of Death, also known as King Boxer. The plot is simple: rival martial arts schools fighting, and a cool hero who's mastered a secret technique. But let's listen to what happens when he's about to go into battle. And now we look at Uma Thurman. Yes, the sound came from here. Although, in fact, Five Fingers of Death also borrowed it from the American TV series Ironside, about a detective in a wheelchair. But in history, it will go down as the Bride's Revenge jingle. I'll keep quiet about the bright flashbacks in the background for now. We'll talk about them when we get to Italy. Right now, it's Five Fingers of Death. The local fighters have one very memorable special move. They pull out their opponent's eyes, which the bride has mastered to perfection. In this scene, Daryl Hannah decided to amuse Tarantino and thrash around in hysterics as unnaturally as possible, echoing the death of her character from Blade Runner. The director liked it, and the take made it into the final cut. Just as Sonny Chiba represents the territory of old Japanese action films, actor Gordon Liu represents Hong Kong. He acted in a bunch of movies about the Shaolin Temple, and in Kill Bill, he got two roles at once. In the first part, the leader of the Crazy 88, Johnny Moe, and in the second, Pai Mei, who trains the bride. And he does it largely copying the film The Martial Arts of Shaolin, in which he himself once played. There's the long training of punching through walls, and the strict master who forbids the student to eat with his hands.
我就俾好似狗一樣喺出邊住。如果你好似人一樣嘅話，你可以發現。
Pai Mei references the famous warrior monk Bak Mei, who survived the destruction of the Shaolin monastery and betrayed his brothers. Not the most loyal fellow. That's why in Tarantino's world he trains assassins. Let's also note Uma Thurman's costume, taken from Game of Death with Bruce Lee, and changed the setting of the references. Now it's Italy's turn, the homeland of spaghetti westerns and giallo horror films.
Blood-spattered angel.
While the first volume of Kill Bill is more reminiscent of martial arts action movies, This second is a full-on Western with long, tense scenes and sharp shootouts. And even though the next film isn't Italian, the story of the Wild West is definitely worth starting with it. One of the very first visual references in Kill Bill, Volume 2, points to the searchers and the famous scene where we watch John Wayne walking off into the distance through a doorway. The brutal scene of the execution of the bride that opens the first Kill Bill was inspired by the genre classic The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. Blondie on the verge of death, and the evil Tuco aiming a revolver at him. The main heroine walking through the desert out of focus is exactly like Henry Fonda in another Sergio Leone classic, Once Upon a Time in the West. And the orange flashbacks I mentioned earlier came from yet another Italian film, Death Rides a Horse. And let's take a look at that movie's trailer.
The bandits who killed 5 defenseless people made one big mistake. They should have killed 6.
And now let's listen to what the bride says.
She did her part in the killing of 9 innocent people. She made one big mistake. She should have killed 10.
Another quote that made it into the film simply because, well, let's admit it, the line sounds really cool. You know, why is it always the bride, the bride? Since we're now talking in more detail about the second movie, it's time to call her by her name.
Beatrix Kiddo.
Here.
This, by the way, is a reference to the cult film Annie Hall by Woody Allen.
60-year-old boys don't have girls on their minds.
I did.
Funny thing is, at first the film tries its best to hide the real name of Uma Thurman's character, although in reality, it's right on the surface. Listen to what Bill says to her in the very first scene.
No, kiddo.
And kiddo there isn't just a casual nickname, it's her actual last name. You can see her full name on the ticket to Okinawa, and Oren addresses her in a way that seems like a nod to a cereal commercial.
Silly rabbit. Tricks are for kids.
But then it becomes clear that Trix is a shortened version of Beatrix. It's amusing that Tarantino both keeps the secret and hides the answer in plain sight at the same time. So, in one of the key scenes of Volume 2, Beatrix is buried alive. This is a reference to a huge number of films, but let's single out a few. The film City of the Living Dead by Italian horror master Lucio Fulci includes a scene of a live person being buried, and more importantly, a moment with bloody tears, just like Go-Go after her fatal wound. We should also definitely mention Django Kill, If You Live, Shoot, which begins with the resurrection of the main character stretching his hand out from under the ground. And on Beatrix's tombstone it says Paula Schultz, a reference to the not very popular and coldly received film The Wicked Dreams of Paula Schultz, about a girl trying to escape from East Germany, but apparently one that made a big impression on young Quentin Tarantino. Another Italian horror film, The Blood-Spattered Bride, gave its name to the second chapter of Volume 1. And let's move on, because ahead of us is a whole array of references to American cinema. Tarantino was obsessed with exploitation films, full of violence, nudity, and themes frowned upon in polite society. And many moments from those movies migrated into Kill Bill. Let's take a close look at El Driver, aka California Mountain Snake. The character entered film history thanks to a single scene, the hospital corridor walk. And even in this moment alone, there's a whole mountain of references. A girl decorating her eye patch can be seen in the exploitation classic Switchblade Sisters. Now, let's briefly jump from the US to Sweden and look at Thriller, A Cruel Picture. Yes, the film is literally called that. According to Tarantino, it's the most brutal revenge movie ever made. And at its center is also a one-eyed heroine. The moment with the hospital infiltration to kill her target is borrowed from several films at once. The 1981 horror Dead and Buried includes a scene with a murderous nurse who also uses a syringe with poison. A similar villain appears in Black Sunday, apparently a very common method of dispatching people. And here's a less obvious source of inspiration, but I'm absolutely sure it left a mark on the director. It's no coincidence Tarantino calls it the greatest film ever made. Bullet with Steve McQueen. It also features a hospital infiltration scene where someone attempts to finish off a wounded witness. And if we look at Beatrix's profile at the very beginning of Volume 1, we'll see a reference to a genuine cinema classic, Citizen Kane. The shot composition of El Driver's Corridor Walk is taken from another of Tarantino's idols, director Brian De Palma. He loves to use split screen in his films to show several events simultaneously. As Tarantino says, when he first watched Dressed to Kill as a teenager, he realized that when he makes his own films, he will definitely use that technique. And so he did. And the melody El is whistling comes from yet another thriller of that era, Twisted Nerve. It was written by Bernard Herrmann, a true classic of film music. It was very important for Tarantino to cast, in the role of the main villain Bill, an actor symbolic of American cinema. Someone who radiated old-school Hollywood cool the same way Sonny Chiba and Gordon Liu represented Japanese and Hong Kong cinema. And he chose Warren Beatty.
We rob banks.
The same guy from Bonnie and Clyde. Tarantino admired his stature and always considered him one of the top actors of the new Hollywood era. But Beatty declined. Immediately another, even better option was found, David Carradine, who in his youth starred in the TV series Kung Fu. He played Kwai Chang Caine, an American Chinese wanderer traveling the Old West and restoring order using martial arts. You can't really imagine a better symbol of American Kung Fu, unless you count Chuck Norris. But there's a good chance he'll count you first. In one of the long scenes of Volume 2, Bill plays a bamboo flute. It's literally the same instrument he carved himself back in 1978 for the film Circle of Iron. That's what you call an object with history. And now let's look at this pervert named Buck.
My name is Buck, and I'm here to fuck.
Through this line, Tarantino expresses his delight with Tobe Hooper's film Eaten Alive, the director of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. That film also had a character with the same name, which caused young Tarantino to burst out laughing.
Name's Buck. I'm raring to fuck.
And who plays Buck? Robert Englund. Long before Freddy Krueger, I'm sure almost no one, on first viewing Kill Bill, realizes that Tarantino was referencing the actor who played Freddy.
Please, God.
This is God.
Let's move on to the final section of our reference journey. In Volume 1, we see a perfectly constructed homage to the original Gone in 60 Seconds. Not the one with Nicolas Cage, but the first film. The hero also arranged sunglasses on the dashboard. In Kill Bill, the actor Michael Parks arrives in this car, playing Sheriff Earl McGraw. And that's when we realize there's yet another layer of Easter eggs. References to Tarantino himself. Because Michael Parks played that same character in From Dusk Till Dawn by Robert Rodriguez, a film written by Tarantino, in which he also starred. Meaning, right next to the Wounded Bride could theoretically be the titty twister bar full of vampires, and you might even start scanning the background for one of the Gecko brothers. The director keeps adding hints and even inserts an ad for Red Apple cigarettes, Tarantino's fictional brand. And in Volume 2, we see the ubiquitous Samuel L. Jackson, who always pops up in Tarantino's films. A fun theory formed around his appearance, that here we're seeing Jules from Pulp Fiction, who retired from crime and became a wandering pianist. He escaped death back then, but couldn't hide from fate forever. Sooner or later, everyone pays for their sins, a very Kill Bill style message. But Tarantino answered the multiverse question quite clearly in an interview. Yes, it's true. The film takes place in one world, but there are two layers. In one, live the more grounded characters of Reservoir Dogs and Pulp Fiction. Jackie Brown doesn't even count, because it's the universe of his favorite writer Elmore Leonard. And then there's the second world, the world of Kill Bill, Death Proof, and From Dusk Till Dawn, the universe of films watched by the characters of Pulp Fiction. That is, it's a fictional world inside another fictional world. And that's why Kill Bill is so detached from reality, stitched together from cool scenes, witty monologues, and absolutely fantastical violence. It's a movie created by Tarantino's characters. The director wanted to give modern viewers a taste of the emotions he felt as a kid, spending entire weekends in movie theaters, to pass along his passion and love for cinema, and even more, to educate viewers about the history of genre film, to pack into a single 4-hour movie all the elements of such varied cinematic traditions, to shoot some scenes on toy-like sets, drench them in gallons of fake blood, then dwell on long desert walks and meditative cowboy-style monologues. Kill Bill is a special course program in film history that is actually fun to watch. Because there's nothing easier than wrapping an educational process inside a revenge action movie, one of the most effective concepts in cinema, and turning a wave of nostalgia into an adventure people around the world will rewatch again and again. In December 2025, the full 4-hour version of Kill Bill finally hit theaters. Previously shown only at festivals, the rights finally fully returned to the director and public theatrical screenings became possible. And judging by the box office and the buzz, the film is still beloved by audiences. Because Tarantino didn't just make a movie resembling the ones he adored as a kid, he managed to transmit his excitement, his obsession, his sincere love for cinema through the screen. And that is what distinguishes a truly talented filmmaker. And I'll definitely return to his films in future videos. Make sure to subscribe and hit like so you don't miss anything. And now, head to the next video, or check out the playlist packed with deep dives on famous films and franchises. Thank you for watching, and this is ElevenSlate.
Action!
Oh, come on, let's do it again.